Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, 2020 has really gotten off to a quick start in terms of severe weather, and over the last couple of days, we've seen a lot more reports added to our total count. This picture you've been looking at here in Springer, Oklahoma, sent in by Aaron Rigsby, shows just another one of the very large tornadoes that we've seen across parts of the southern United States. Now, just to show you how active April's can be, I'll just rewind the clock and show you the record setter. April 2011, especially across what we call Dixie Alley, which is right in through here, had 751 confirmed tornadoes. And while we're not approaching those kind of numbers this year, we have certainly seen some powerful storms moving across parts of the southern United States. Here's just a view from satellite sent in by Dakota Smith. Fantastic follow on Twitter if you like looking at satellite information here. And this is just one of the powerful supercell thunderstorms tapping into what has been an easily destabilizing atmosphere over the southern part of the United States. And that particular storm was one of many that produced tornadoes over the last couple of days. On the right, we have a tornado near Durant, Oklahoma. Thomas Markham sent this one into National Weather Service at Norman. You can see the broad circulation here at the base of this tornado causing some power flashes there. And over on the left, yet another very wide tornado in Seven Oaks, Texas. I don't know who to give credit to in this video. It was so widely shared. But again, we have seen some powerful and sizable tornadoes moving across the southern United States here in the last several weeks. When we look at the total tornado reports along with the other severe weather reports over the last couple of days, Texas and Oklahoma, now moving over to Louisiana, have been the main targets. But just to give you some statistics to keep in the back of your mind, so far in 2020, we're sitting at 130% of average on tornadoes and 182% of average in terms of severe winds. That's the blue dots on these maps. So looking at it in total from January 1st to April 22nd, we have had a lot of severe weather, and it's been concentrated in the southeastern corner of the United States, from Texas to the Carolinas and up through the mid-Atlantic. But it has extended at times back into the central U.S., and we do expect over the coming weeks, just based on climatology, for this region in through here and over into there to continue to add a lot more reports to this particular map. Now, in terms of hail, while over the last few days we've seen some sizable hail in Oklahoma and Texas and Louisiana, hail reports so far on the year are only sitting at 66% of average. But for some folks, it doesn't matter that we're only at 2/3 of normal, because they've been getting hammered with some huge hail here, which we've seen here in Oklahoma and Texas as of late. Just a few of the pictures of some of the very sizable hailstones. What's been causing this? Well, it doesn't really matter what the upper level flow or the subtropical flow has really looked like over the past several months. It didn't matter because each one of those setups has really just been able to draw a lot of moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. It's been relatively just wide open. It's been untapped and allowed to move in. And when we look at this map showing precipitable water anomalies from March through this point in April, we can see that this has helped destabilize the lower levels of the atmosphere, giving us the potential for getting all of those severe storms. That has been a feature that has been unchanged throughout much of the beginning of 2020. And some of the things that I think are supporting this are really seen in this map of current sea surface temperatures. What I'd like to do is focus in here on what's been happening in the Gulf of Mexico, because as you can tell, ocean temperature anomalies in this section of the western Atlantic getting into the Gulf are sitting 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above average. And while that is helping transport heat and moisture into the lower levels of the atmosphere, which these storms have been using, it's also got me concerned about later on in the year, with already having such warm temperatures in the Gulf. Once hurricane season arrives, that is where they're going to extract a lot of heat and energy. Something we all must be watching here as we progress through this spring, summer, and then getting over into fall. Well, early this morning, I imagine there wasn't a lot of folks sleeping in this area. As I was making this recording about 3 o'clock this morning, we were seeing a lot of active lightning strikes. Add them all up here, we're approaching about 27,000 separate reports of lightning here as measured. And this is an area that's been hit repeatedly as of late. So I imagine a lot of folks up watching these storms. Well, as we watch through the rest of the day, the Storm Prediction Center today on Thursday is concerned concerned over here in parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, getting down into northern Florida as this main severe weather threat. And then looking out into the day tomorrow on Friday, we have another system coming through the Pacific Northwest right now that'll set up shop here in the central United States, increasing the severe weather threat again in Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma, northeastern Texas, while the first system finally leaves parts of Florida. And then as you get into the day on Saturday, it's going to be parts of the Mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, and southern Florida that are going to be dealing again with the chance for strong to severe storms. Now, to give you the setup of this forecast, I'm going to rewind the clock back to the last week, so the one that ended on April 19th. During that time period, we saw bitterly cold air set up across the midsection of the country, and it chased almost everybody out of the fields and really prevented a lot of field work in the middle part of the United States. Since then, over the last 5 days, pretty sizable rebound from the Canadian prairies into the central United States, while cooler weather still had its grip on the eastern half of the country. But still, with that, if we just think of what it's done to our soil temperatures, early this morning at 7 a.m., 4-inch soil temperatures, we've actually now seen temperatures here getting up out of the 40s and into the lower 50s. That's that line I just drew there. So we've had a pretty big rebound. And that's after yesterday's frost event that we had in parts of northern Wisconsin, Michigan, parts of Indiana, but Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, right in through this area. So bitterly cold temperatures yesterday morning. So the rebound has been good. The question is, what has precipitation been doing? Now, we've been repeatedly hitting this section of the United States over the last 2.5 weeks with severe weather, and more is on the way. So where we've already recorded over the last week over 500% of normal precipitation, we're adding more. The severe weather recently has filled this in, and in the overnight hours, we've increased the precipitation right in through this area, and we're going to continue to do that today. But leading up to that, there were a lot of folks that saw wide open planting for about a week in the central part of the United States. Meanwhile, the Northwest has been dry, but we are bringing precipitation back into that area as well. So that was the setup as we get into this forecast. So what did we notice in the last 24 hours? Well, the storms that have pulled out of parts of Texas and Oklahoma, farther to the east and north, are now spreading rain early this morning into this section of the United States, and this will be pulling forth here over toward the south and east throughout the day. Widely scattered showers that move through parts of Iowa, southern Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, really just hit or miss there. So a lot of folks still got in another day yesterday with field work. Well, pushing this forward, what am I watching? Today, outstanding upper level dynamics with the trough that's sitting here with both upper level divergence and diffluence happening over the southeast. This is what's going to uncork the atmosphere, allowing for rapid destabilization and a major severe weather threat. What we have now is a wave moving through the northwest here that by the time we get into Friday will be sitting over parts of the central United States, increasing the severe weather threat to the south, but more rains for parts of, Nebraska, eastern Nebraska, getting into Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, and eventually over into Indiana. And then middle of next week, we got to watch this little wave right here because it's going to get pulled into this broader trough. And by the time we get into next Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to create a low pressure center in the midsection of the country that could be quite sizable. That's the pattern I'm most looking out for here in the coming days. Let's get right on into it by watching our high resolution modeling first, playing out what we're expecting to see through early morning on Saturday. So as we take this back, let's just see where things are by early this morning. So in the early morning hours on Thursday, widespread rain moving through parts of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, hitting the Ohio Valley, while the severe storms pull through parts of Mississippi over into Alabama and Georgia through mid-morning. That light rain spreads throughout parts of the eastern Corn Belt here throughout the day on Thursday, and then works its way into the northeast as the severe storms move down into parts of Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. So that's through this evening. Meanwhile, look at the thunderstorm activity and the widespread rain activity through parts of the Intermountain West getting into the north central plains. Now, some folks are going to get missed entirely by these storms and rain showers, but some folks may get some of this early this afternoon. This is the next system such that in the overnight hours on Thursday into early Friday morning takes shape as a low pressure system in the mid part of the United States. So we see precipitation moving through Nebraska, it's moving through parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and then into Missouri and Illinois, getting into southern parts of Wisconsin. That's where this next system really takes shape throughout the afternoon and evening hours on Friday. To the south of it, we're concerned about severe weather in through this area, remember, on Friday, as that will be the atmosphere's most destabilized. This then pushes to the east as we work our way into the day on Saturday. while the next system, remember the one we're going to be watching for Tuesday, comes into the Pacific Northwest. Okay, putting that all together, this is an animation of the accumulation of rain through the next week. And there we can see these next few systems pulling through. So let's just show you again throughout the day today on Thursday, where we see the rain spreading into early Friday morning. So this is now through early Friday morning. There's going to be a lot of folks still in the central part of the United States working into parts of Iowa and Illinois, where if you miss the showers, you're still going to get more field work done. But what we're going to notice is that throughout the day on Friday, this is when the widely scattered rain does move through parts of the Central Plains, and then in the Friday afternoon and evening hours, we start to increase the precipitation amount in parts of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, such that by Saturday morning, we're spreading this east into the eastern Corn Belt, including Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Now, while that's going on, the next system is pulling into the northwest, and as it comes through, by next Monday night, we need to be watching the Central Plains, such that by Tuesday, there it is, this is Tuesday morning, getting into the afternoon and evening, our next big low pressure system pulls into the midsection of the country. Now, is the GFS model on board with what you see here? So take a look at this. This is the European. This is what the GFS is saying at this same time. Very similar setup into who we're expecting to get the rain. So I've been generating a new set of maps, and the set of maps shows you that over the next 7 days, where do we expect to see better than 1/10 of an inch of rainfall falling each day? And if we add that up, how many days are we expecting to get that? So when you look at that color bar, it's the number of days over the next 7 days from the GFS where we're expecting 1/10 of an inch of rain or more. And it appears that the slowdown in planting progress is really going to be happening in this corridor. Yeah, we've got multiple chances for strong storms moving through here, but we get breaks in between them in the south. And parts of the Central Plains, working its way all the way down into Texas, it's going to be hit or miss. So overall, this is what the pattern I think is going to shape up like in the near term before it completely breaks after next Tuesday into Wednesday. So I think this corridor through here is where we're going to have the least opportunity to get a lot of field work done. Okay, so if we watch the details of all of this from the European model, we've seen up to this point. So stopping early on Saturday morning, here's our next low pressure system pulling through Illinois, and it's going to move off to the east. Now remember, to the south of that on Friday, we were watching this area for some strong to severe storms. Okay, so let's watch it from here. So going from Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon and evening, we see that low pressure system pulling into Kentucky and Ohio. So widespread rain into that area, and that gets on off to the north and east. Very strong winds in the eastern Corn Belt early Sunday morning. Now as Sunday afternoon progresses into Sunday evening, now into early Monday morning, we need to watch a band of showers moving through parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, into northern Missouri. That does spread into, on Monday afternoon, into Illinois and over into Michigan and eventually the eastern Corn Belt. Now you can see the southern edge of that pulling down into parts of Missouri as well. But the bigger event is now taking shape in the north central plains on Monday night, such that by Tuesday morning, a low pressure system emerges here right around Sioux Falls. And then we see that getting into the day on Tuesday, rain spreads through Iowa, southern Minnesota, over to Wisconsin. And then we get this large low pressure system really showing up right here for Tuesday night. Now at this point, I'm concerned about the severe weather threat in through this corridor. Very windy conditions wrapped up into this low here and broad rainfall around the whole system as we let it go from Tuesday night into Wednesday morning right here. This is now pulling into Wednesday afternoon and evening. And you can see, I'll just stop this right here Wednesday morning. Look at the tightly spaced isobars around this system. It's going to be extremely windy and quite powerful. And it is the last storm system in the current pattern before the regime changes. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So, is there good model agreement on the placement of that system? Yes. If you look out next Tuesday night to Wednesday morning, we have nearly all of our ensemble members from the European model putting a low pressure center in that area. So that system I'm talking about next week, which is currently sitting in the Bering Sea, does appear to be a pretty robust system here in the forecast models. But this is the change. After this, the jet stream tends to favor a deeper trough in the Gulf of Alaska, a broader ridge over western North America, diving into a trough over parts of the Great Lakes states and into the Canadian Maritimes. And warmth will be building here, but overall, this is not the pattern that brings in, through the middle part of the country, big low pressure systems in from this direction. This is not that pattern. So again, this is after that system comes through early next week, how things tend to shape up. So what we need to do is we need to see what that means in terms of precipitation patterns. So looking exclusively at week 2, we do notice that overall the midsection of the country is favoring some drier conditions. Not dry, not no precipitation, but overall this is just not the right setup with the flow doing something like this to give us big storm systems. Remember, a year ago, it was doing that. Complete opposite flow pattern is what we saw a year ago at the beginning of May. So drier overall. We've even got good support from this when looking at the GFS analog approach. So April 30th to May 3rd, we see that that area has a better chance than not at being drier than the climatological average. But as you get out here to May 3rd to May 6th, so excuse me for that typo, May 3rd to May 6th, we go back over, it appears, to the potential for seeing wetter than average conditions here getting into the end of that first week of May. So we've really seen an oscillating kind of week on, week off with the precipitation patterns. Have you been noticing that too? That seems to be the way things are going as we work into May. And I explained why that was the case in yesterday's long-range update. Now, in terms of temperatures, parts of Eastern Corn Belt seeing much warmer conditions today than we saw yesterday at this time. As we work forward on those temperatures, let's just see how Friday morning's lows shape up. So we saw this morning's lows. How about Friday morning lows? We notice that our sub-freezing temperatures, which are seen here in the numbers, are confined to parts of the Great Lakes states, so specifically Wisconsin and Michigan. And as we play from Friday into Saturday morning's lows, let's get to Saturday morning's lows. Here we go. We see once again, we really don't see widespread frost or freeze threat at this time. It's really up where it's normally cold this time of year, which is in northern parts of Wisconsin and Michigan. My only concern is as we work our way from Saturday into Sunday, and then Sunday into Monday for the Corn Belt, this area right in through here, we notice that our temperatures, maybe I should focus a little bit more into this area. We notice that our temperatures have the potential to get down into the low 30s again. And therefore, I think the frost risk might show up again from the National Weather Service forecast during that time period. But notice this, after Monday, we see the pattern doing this on Tuesday and into Wednesday, moderation overall in those overnight low temperatures. Now looking broad scale, looking at days 6 through 10, this is when the jet stream pattern has changed and the warmth out west is really showing up here. Now, some concerns, this will increase melting rate of the snow that's in the mountains, which is good right now. This will increase evaporation rates as you get into the Central Valley of California. And we see that both models, the European and the GFS, keep that pattern there through May 3rd. As we look out even farther than that, this is now all the way out to May 8th. The European model, I think, has the best handle on this. We continue to see this pattern holding steadfast here. But I believe it breaks down, and I provided my evidence for this in yesterday's long-range outlook, past May 5th, 6th, and 7th. So that's why we've recently seen some moderation in the colder air that we've had over the Eastern Corn Belt, okay? So from there, globally, just take a look at this pattern. It's quite interesting. Over the next 5 days, cool here in parts of China, cool in the eastern part of North America, cool over the Russian wheat belt. Warm directly to the west of there. In fact, very warm in Siberia, very warm in the western United States, and warm here in parts of Western Europe. Now, speaking of Eastern Europe, I want to show you this. We had mentioned in the last couple of videos dryness in Europe. Just to give you an idea about how dry our things are in Ukraine, they've built up a pretty sizable deficit in precipitation as of late there. So they're well off their normal pace of accumulating precip. And we need to keep a close eye on this as they move into their planting season, as they move into their growing season, given that drought pressures could be an issue there. But to finish this up, where we're really dealing with drought in terms of growing a crop right now has been southern Brazil. And we see that over the next 10 days, we continue to see dry conditions there. Where Brazil's main safrinha crops are grown, which is in this area, while we do see a little bit of a drier bias over the next 10 days, most would not see this as being detrimental to that crop. But where we could see things slow down a bit is in Argentina. Right now, Argentina is 10% ahead of pace on its soybean harvesting progress and its corn harvesting progress. We see Argentina over the next 10 days, though, showing up very wet in the forecast models. So with that, I'm going to go and wrap it up. I want to thank you for your attention. Look forward to giving you regional updates tomorrow, analyzing things over the weekend to see how this full pattern adjustment affects our planting season in the United States here getting into the month of May. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.